Anyway, my name is Nicholas Bernhard. I am the author of the historical novel November in America. And I am the producer and director of the true crime documentary Blackstone's Equation. I have also written for Yellow Scene magazine and the game studio Serenity Forge. How's the volume going for everybody? Just want to check that. Testing. Just a second here. Oh, very good. So tonight I'd like to talk to you a little bit about ebooks. Oh, and let me get me up here. There I am. When I first wrote November in America, I put a lot of effort into the print edition, and I used that as the basis for the later ebook edition. And by the time I reached the end of that process, I had concluded that the tools out there for writers to create ebooks really aren't that great. The process as it currently stands is very frustrating, and I think it hits you on both ends because it's a poor process in creating the ebooks, but then it's a compromised reading experience. So I decided that I needed a new way of creating ebooks. I needed something that would let me create them exactly the way that I intended to. But the other part of that is that it would be pointless to create an easier way to create ebooks if it didn't provide the best reading experience for readers. So I decided that my goal is going to be to make it easy for writers to create and deliver the best ebooks possible for their audience. Now, in order to achieve this, I decided that there were 4 requirements. There were 4 specific things that I was looking for that my ebooks needed to meet. And I'd like to talk about those right now. The first thing I really wanted from an ebook was that I wanted to be able to run it in the browser. If you think about it, most of the work that we do these days on computers is in a browser. We use browsers for email. We use browsers for checking the news, for communicating with people over chat. We use it to watch videos. There's even office productivity apps like Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets that we can so that we can do even that in a browser. And yet with ebooks, it's a little bit that really isn't the case, is it? You have things like Nook or Kindle that are apps where they have to use to read ebooks. You also have special devices like the Kindle. And I've always thought that was really odd. Why do you need a special app, let alone a special device, in order to read a book, an ebook? So that was the first thing that I really decided that I needed. Now you might be saying, what about something like Project Gutenberg or Wikibooks? Now those are 2 platforms that let you read books in the browser, and they're DRM free. And the problem with that is that, particularly as far as Project Gutenberg is concerned, they kind of left the book out of the ebook. What you're looking at right here on the screen is the Gutenberg edition of Moby Dick. Now, I don't know about you, but I really can't see a lot of people reading Moby Dick in this microscopic 12-point font that they've been using for a very long time. And the same would go for the works of Alcott or Jules Verne or Dante. It's just stuck at this very basic level. And very hard to read, particularly on mobile devices. So if we're going to say books that you can read in the browser, I think you really have to add to that it be mobile responsive, that it's going to look good on your smartphone, it's going to look good on your tablet. Now, there are some other options for writers. There's websites like Inkit, there's Wattpad, there's fanfiction.net, and those websites do allow you to publish your work in a fairly straightforward manner, and it can read it in the browser. Some of them even have some basic interactive features, such as dark mode or text resizing. Now, the problem with that is that these sites are supposed to be for authors, for literary works. But they kind of seem, they're presented in the visual language of a blog. It's got these burning white backgrounds and the left justified text. There isn't really a lot of taste in how it's presented. Now, if you're a writer, you've put a lot of care into your work. You've really thought about the story structure and the characters' motivations and how one event progresses into the next. And so if you're a writer like that and you've put that much care into your story, I feel like the platform that you present it on ought to put as much care into it. It should treat it with respect as a work of literature. The platform should elevate what you've written. It should ennoble it and not just treat it as another glob of text that you can see online. It should put as much care into it as you did. So we talked about running in browser, and that means infinite scroll. Now there's another part of that. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. What I meant to say is that part of that requirement, in addition to being mobile responsive, is that it should have some kind of infinite scroll. And I'm going to talk about why that's important. When I was writing November in America, I had this idea of how the climax of the book would lay out on the page. Toward the end of the book, there's this conflict between the striking coal miners and the state militia. And the militia captain makes this mistake that has consequences for all of the other characters. And I had this very clear idea that on the printed page, you would come to the end of one page and not know what was going to happen. You'd have to turn the page to resolve the tension. And I was pretty pleased with how that turned out in print form. But one thing I realized is that it could never really work as an ebook, because we have these pages. It's going to resize your paragraphs and put them in different places so that it will fit on these different screens. You get these things called widows and orphans, which is where one line of a paragraph gets stuck and doesn't join the others. And that's very frustrating. I could never make it work the way I wanted it to on an ebook. And so I figured, rather than worrying about how that was going to play out on the page, just stick with infinite scroll and have it work within that environment. That seems like a much better way of looking at it than the whole page situation. So let's talk about audiobooks for a minute. I believe that audiobooks are one of the quickest ways that people can improve their quality of life. What an audiobook means is that all the time in your day that would normally be monopolized by, taken up by the news or the same 20 pop songs playing on the radio every day, that time becomes reading time. And that novel that you always wanted to finish, you can finish it. And you think about all the time during your day, you're just sitting in your car or you're in line at the bank. That's time that you can now spend reading. And I think that that's an incredible thing. And the problem that I've seen is that typically audiobooks are completely their own thing. They live in their own app, and it's usually you have to buy it separately. And so I've really thought, why can't the audiobook be built in to the ebook so that you have them both in the same place. So that would be number 2, built-in audiobooks. Oh, sorry about that. The third thing that I really wanted to see from an ebook was that it would respect the reader's freedom. So, to explain what I mean by that, I'd like you to imagine something for a moment. I want you to imagine a very dystopian bookstore. Now, at this bookstore, when you buy a book, you don't really own it. You can't pay in cash for it, and you need to tell the bookstore where you live. If you want to lend the book to a friend, you have to tell the bookstore your friend's name. If you write a note in the bookstore can read that note and share it with other people if it likes. Lastly, imagine that this bookstore could at any time come into your home and take that book off your shelf and leave with it. Well, the truth is that this place exists in digital form, and it's called the Kindle Bookstore. What I just described are basically the terms that you agree to anytime you purchase an ebook from Amazon. In at least one case, Amazon, through the web, reached in to the devices of every customer who had purchased a certain novel and deleted it. They just went in and took it away. Regardless, these are people who had paid for this book. By the way, the novel in that case was 1984 by George Orwell. I'm not making that up. So I wanted something that was going to respect the user's freedoms, that didn't, treat them with that, frankly, that big brother sensibility. I wanted something that would treat the reader the way, that you would want to be treated. That was very important to me. Now, there was one more thing that I really wanted, that had to happen, and I think this is very important for writers. And that was the ability to write anywhere. This is important because every writer has their own setup. Some people like to work in a really robust word processor environment like Microsoft Word, or Apple Pages, maybe something like OpenOffice. Maybe they want to collaborate online with something like Google Docs, work in a lightweight text editor such as Apple's Notes app, or the Notepad on Windows. Heck, you could even be like George R.R. Martin, and you write in WordStar on your MS-DOS computer. Every writer has their own way of writing, and so I really wanted something where, however a writer likes to write, it would be so easy to translate that into an ebook. That was very important for me. Oh, not quite there yet. So I come from a filmmaking background, and in film we use screenplays. And now screenplays have this notoriously rigid format. Every element of a screenplay has its own specific rules about, let's see here. Every writer has their own specific, every screenplay has these very specific rules about how the text is laid out, how many inches for particular elements, how many lines after each particular element. And at least when I was in film school, there was a huge amount of effort put into learning these things. And that was really important to learn, because one of the quickest ways as a beginning screenwriter that your work would be rejected is if you messed up on one of those rules. So all this work went into it, and there was a whole industry of very expensive applications that would kind of help you with the work, that would help you write in that format. So you could either spend hours setting everything right in Word, or you had these very expensive applications. And it made it very frustrating. And there was really no way around it. Until these two guys in Hollywood, these two very smart guys, invented something called Fountain. Now, Fountain is a markup language. So the idea with Fountain would be that instead of worrying about all the indentations and spacing, you would just write. There would be some basic rules that you needed to know. But it was a lot fewer rules than it took to write the full screenplay. And it was really incredible that you just had that basic text, You would write it out, and then you feed that into a program, and it would instantly convert it into the screenplay format. It was a really incredible thing, and that's the beauty of a markup language, is that you can start with something very basic, just having to know a few rules, and then you just start with a few rules, and then it would convert it into the screenplay format. And it was just unbelievable. So I wanted something like that, where instead of writing my manuscript and then putting it into, the ebook creator and spending so much time getting everything fixed and getting all the typefaces right and the indentations, if I could just spend my time writing, and then the computer would take care of the rest, that you would just come out with the finished ebook. I thought that would be an incredibly powerful thing. There's other benefits to a markup language. For one thing, it's very lightweight. It's just text. So it's the easiest thing in the world to just attach that to an email, put it in the body of an email, send it off to somebody. And since it's very small, it doesn't take up a lot of space if you're working on a lot of revisions. So that was my fourth requirement, that you'd have the freedom to write anywhere thanks to this markup language and the program that would convert that markup into the finished product. So those were the 4 requirements. Needs to run in a browser. Built-in audiobook. Respect user freedom, and you could write it anywhere. Well, say hello to the Nantucket E-Book. Okay, what we're looking at right here is a Nantucket ebook that is running in the Chrome browser. If you look in the description of this video, you'll find a link to this very ebook, as well as to the main site. Oh, I knew I was going to do that. Oh, sorry. Here we go. I clicked the right window this time. NantucketEbooks.com is where you want to go. So here we have a Nantucket ebook. Nantucket comes from a very small island off the coast of Massachusetts, which is where the novel Moby Dick begins. That's where Captain Ahab's ship, the Pequod, first set sail. And I wanted a name that conveyed that sense that you're beginning on a whole new adventure, which is the feeling that every good book really ought to give you. The sense that you're starting out and you're going to go somewhere that you've never been before. And so that's where the Nantucket name comes from. As I said, this is running in the Chrome browser. And let me just check something here. Oh, very good. Right now we're looking at the desktop view. So this is what it would look like on your laptop or your PC. Let me show you what it looks like on some other devices. I'm going to open up Chrome's emulator here. So I click a button. This is what it's going to look like on an iPhone 8. You'll see the margins compressed. Let's try landscape mode here. You'll see the margins expanded like that. Let's look at an iPad. I know a lot of people use that. So it's going to look like that. Let's try it in landscape mode here. What you're seeing is the program is using CSS media queries to automatically adjust all the elements of the page depending on what device you happen to be using. So you really can enjoy these ebooks on any device. It's going to look really nice. With that in mind, let's take a look at some of the interactive features. All the interactive features are going to be in this menu here. And you can see that when I move away from the menu, it kind of makes itself less conspicuous. When I bring it in, it makes itself known. So when you're down reading, it's not going to be in your way. It's not going to be distracting you. I think that's a nice little thing. So I click here, and that's going to expand the menu. Click the arrow, that's going to contract the menu. Let me show you what that looks like on other devices. So let's see, I'm here on my iPad again. When I'm on an iPad in landscape mode, it's going to expand across the top. And if I was in portrait mode, it's going to be here at the bottom, and it's going to expand that way and then collapse. So that's part of the mobile responsive nature of these ebooks. I'll expand the menu again, and let's go through these items. The first icon here is for the table of contents. Now, by default, every Nantucket ebook is going to come with an inline table of contents here. So we're going to have a list of all the illustrations in the book, and then we're going to have a list of all the different chapters. So you always have that at the top, and that's great for accessibility because you can tab your way through these, and that's an easy way to navigate when you're on a desktop. Now, let's say you were down here, like you were down at this point, and you didn't really want to have to go back up to the top to go to the table of contents. Well, you're going to click this icon here. I'm going to click the right window this time. And I clicked it, and it opened up this drop-down table of contents menu. And I can't show it to you on this stream, but it does bring down this menu. And that's if you're on a desktop. Now, let's say that you were back on your iPad here. I would click this button, and I get this nice full screen table of contents that makes it very easy to navigate. So that's coming up with a different user experience when you're on a mobile device, because truly drop-down menus really don't work on smartphones. But so you're always going to have access to that table of contents. Our next icon here is a light bulb. I'm sure you can guess what that does. That's going to be the dark mode. I click it, and it's going to invert it to white text on a black background. So if you're reading at night, you want something that's a little bit easier on your eyes, you just turn the lights off, and there it goes into dark mode. And then you click to reverse it. I love how smooth it is. I put some really nice transitions in that. I could do it all day. But anyway, that's the dark mode. Up next is the bookmark button. So let's say I am down here, the Read Anywhere section, and I decided I've read enough for today. I'll come back later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that, and let's say I leave it, come back again the next day. Come back to my book. It's going to take me exactly back to where I left off. I think that's really... so it's going to remember your place on that device and take you back there every time. And if you go somewhere new, you just create a new bookmark. So so let's head back up here, and we'll save our spot at the top. Now, let's say that your ebook has an audiobook edition. You can access it right from the ebook. You don't have to send them off to some other site or some other streaming service. All you have to do, click that cassette icon, and it will open up the audiobook mode. If your ebook has a cover, it's going to show up here with the title, author, information about the recording. And actually, I'm going to move... Oh, sorry about that. I meant to click me. There I am. So I'm going to move over here so I can show you the audiobook player. This is just like any other audio player you've used. So I'm going to hit play. Third, my ebook would, if available, include the audiobook. Speak of the devil. Let's go back to the beginning. The Nantucket E-Book Platform, A Better Way to Read Online, by Nicholas Bernhard. Narrated by the author. A better ebook. And then you hit pause to pause. If you're playing, this is an ebook. You can go over here. More specifically, and, hit the mute button. You can unmute it. Nantucket refers to the doc. And let's say that, so if you want to skip ahead, or if you want to go forward and backward, we have these buttons down here. So I can skip ahead. or it can go forward and backwards by either 15 seconds or 1 minute. So let's say I got up here. The most important decision came later, a way to convert the text into an HTML document. And let's say I stop there. You'll remember how we had the bookmarking for the text. Well, if I leave the page, come back again, go back to the audiobook, it not only remembered where I was, you can see if you check by the time code here, it will also rewind it by 5 seconds so that when you play it again, you have a little bit of time to catch up, get up to speed. So that's audiobooks that are being built right in. You can set a background for your, right now I'm using the cover as a background, but it applies this nice diffuse layer so it has sort of a nice frosted glass look. So we'll close that. Give me just a second here. Cool. Everyone can still hear me all right? After the cassette icon here, we have favoriting. Let me get myself reoriented. There we go. Over here is the favorites button. So if you have a book that you really like and you don't want to have to search for it every time or remember the exact URL, all you have to do to favorite it is click that star icon. And I hit the wrong button again. So you get that note right there. And so now if I go to the main website, right now it says no favorites yet, but if I reload the page, there is the book. And when I come to nantucketebooks.com, that's the first thing that I'm going to see is my favorited ebooks. I don't have to search for them, remember them. They're all there. It's sort of your own little bookshelf. And so as we see, if we reload the page here, we see that it's filled in, so that means it's still favorited. But if we, let's say we didn't like this one, there it goes. And now if we reload this page, we see that it's unfilled, so we know it isn't favorited anymore. So that's how easy it is to favorite one of these ebooks and sort of create your own book collection. After that, we've got plus and minus, and obviously that's going to be text resizing. If I click plus here, this is going to increase both the line height and the font size. So you can really tailor it. If you have a certain size that you like, you can really dial that in. Before I get to the last button here, I want to show you something that I think is really cool with these ebooks, and that's illustration focusing. So here we got classic illustration from Alice in Wonderland. If you can't see this on the stream, but if you hover over it on desktop, it's going to give you information about what you're looking at. And if I click it here, it's going to focus it into full screen, and I get the illustration over here. Oh, sorry. And then you've got a caption here and some information about the illustrator. I was very happy. I was really excited to include this because this is a feature that I took from beautiful old books. I still love old books, but I've loved them my whole life. And one of the things I love is how old books came with with illustration plates that you'd go to a book and then occasionally you'd come to these full illustrations. And usually you would have at the very bottom, you would have you'd have some little bit of text that related the illustration to a particular passage in the rest of the book and some other information. So I loved reading and coming across one of those old plates. So this is the ebook version of that. Another thing for writers is that if you have commissioned illustrations as work for hire for your book and you're selling or your illustrations are being sold in some way, you can add a link here to an online store so where people could purchase the illustration they're viewing. So anyway, that's how the illustrations work. If you don't want a particular illustration focused, that's possible as well. So let's talk about notes. This is a feature that I've included for students. I know when I was in college, I really enjoyed being able to write notes in a book, particularly in acting classes. So I wanted a way that people could take notes within their ebook. All you have to do, let's go up here to the top. I'm going to click this notes icon, and that's going to append a text box to each paragraph of the ebook. So I can just go in here and type in, this is really cool. And let's go down a couple, and I'll say, I love to take notes. If I want to save my notes, all I have to do is click the button again. Hides all of the boxes, and it's going to save my notes for me. Let's make sure. Oh, good, they're still there. If I were to leave, let's see, copy that again. If I were to leave, come back again, open up my notes. My notes are still there. Now, as I was creating this, something that was suggested to me is that a lot of people, when they're writing book reports, they like to write the report by compiling all of the notes they've taken while reading the book. And I thought that was a great idea. If we go down to the end of the ebook, there's a couple more things to show you. First off, we have this copy notes button. So if I click that, that's copied all the notes that I've taken to the clipboard. And now if I can find out where it is, here we go. If I paste, it's going to remember that. I wrote some other notes in this, I see. But yeah, so all those notes can be copied. As you can see, it skipped the empty note that I put in between. It's going to only take the notes that have actual text in them. And so that's how you would copy your notes. Lastly, I wanted to show you how you can read these ebooks offline. I thought that was a very important feature because some people don't have great access to the internet, and if they have bandwidth restrictions, they might want to be able to read their ebooks offline. Let me check some here before. Cool. So I'm going to first show you on the main page of the site. So here we are on nantucketebooks.com. Over here, we have this offline button. If I click that, that's going to take me down almost to the bottom where I have the section called Read Offline. And there's a link here to a zip folder. Now that zip folder contains a small scale version of the whole site. And, sorry, I need to look here. So I'm going to, you can't see it here, but I'm going to go into my downloads folder. I'm going to extract that zip folder, bring up the whole site. And then I'm going to go back up to my ebook, and we have a button here that says download this ebook. And if I click that, it's going to download the ebook. Cool. And now I'm going to copy the file that I just downloaded and put it into the zip folder that I extracted. Put it into the correct thing. Paste. Now if I double click, here's my ebook offline. It connected with all of the necessary scripts and style sheets to present it as it was. And what about my notes? The notes download with the rest of the file and get re-imported. So even if you've taken notes online, you can still carry those notes over and use them offline and start taking new notes. So your notes stay with you. You might be wondering where we're storing all of this information, and that ties into the user freedom that I talked about. Usually these things like notes or what books you like, usually that's stored on a server somewhere. And that's how Amazon can read your notes, for example. In this case, I took advantage of the fact that all modern web browsers allocate a little bit of memory for each website you visit. It's about 5 megabytes, which is a lot for text. And it's called local storage. So all this information, in terms of what you favorited, where you are in a book, what notes you've taken in a book, all of that is stored on your device. It's not on a server somewhere where someone else could get it. You control your information. And I think that's the way that it should be. So that's how we respect user freedom. So yeah, that is some of the really cool features that these ebooks have. It has all the interactivity that you would normally expect. It's got built-in audiobooks. It's going to look really great on any mobile browser, any desktop browser. It's a great reading experience wherever you go. And you could even read it offline if you wanted. And so now that we've talked about how great of a reading experience you're going to get with these ebooks and what writers are able to give to their readers, I'd like to show you how easy it is to make one of these ebooks for yourself. Let's go back to our notepad here. As I said before, this is all written in plain text, so if you like writing in Word or Apple Pages, this will work. This will work in any platform that you really prefer. So this uses a markup language called Shanty, named after the sea shanties that whalers would sing. And the idea is that you spend as much of your time writing as you can and not worrying about how it's going to appear at the end. The computer takes care of that aspect. So first we need to provide some information on what we're writing, and all that's called metadata. And all you have to really do with that is it's generally 2 exclamation points. So we need to add a title. That's going to be 2 exclamation points in title. And let's see. Let's make a book. This is going to be a really short book. It's going to be called A History of Boulder. We need to give an author. Nicholas Bernhard. And then if we want people to be able to favorite the ebook, we need to give a unique ID to that particular ebook. Something that you don't use in any of your other works. So keyword, double exclamation point, KYWD, short for keyword. And let's just call it History of Boulder. Doesn't need to be complicated. So that's really all the metadata you need to start to get going. We'll need to add a chapter, of course, and to do that we're going to start with a hashtag, or what I would probably call a £. Chapter 1, beginnings. This little £, hashtag, that's going to tell the program that this is a chapter heading. And so we've covered that. Now, if you just want to write paragraphs, all you have to do for that is just write away. Let's see here. Sorry about that. The city of Boulder, Colorado, was founded in 1858. It was a camp for merchants who supplied miners and trappers on traveling into the Rocky Mountains. We'll add another chapter here. Chapter 2, University. The University of Colorado was founded in 1876, the year of Colorado's statehood. Its flagship campus has always been in Boulder, Colorado. Now, here's something cool. I think one of the really powerful things about the web, it's always been one of the most powerful things, is the ability to hyperlink. That you can link to another document on your own server or on a whole other server. That you can have information be interconnected in these nonlinear ways. That you can link to these different things, that maybe one thing will lead to another. That's so powerful. That's one of the things that sets Wikipedia up above like a print encyclopedia, is the ability to hyperlink. So I definitely wanted to make sure that people had that writers could include hyperlinks in their text. So let's go back to the browser here, and let's say we went to Wikipedia, and we went to their page on Boulder, Colorado. And I'm going to copy the link to that because I want to add that into my ebook. So I'll go here. Cool. Let's see. I'm going to add my hyperlink here. For more information on Boulder, visit, and then I'll add my link here. So to add a link, it's going to be 2 left curly brackets. And I just realized you can't see that. So I'm sorry. That's better. So up here, I'm going to add my link. If you look right here. Double curly brackets to start the link. I paste the web address, 2 vertical lines, the text I want. So this will say, please just visit the Wikipedia page. And to end my link, double curly brackets and add my period. Now I will show you how easy that is to take this and create your ebook. So I'm going to select all that text. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my browser. And the browser I can see. There we go. And we'll go to the main page of nantucketebooks.com. You'll see up at the top here, there's a button that says Write and Register. If I click that, it'll take me down to the writing section where I have a big text box. All I have to do, I'm going to paste my text. There it is. So I pasted all that plain text into this box, and then I'm going to hit Generate My Nantucket eBook. Now you can't see it here, but it gave it the title. It read the title and added that. It also added the date that the file was created. And I think that'll be helpful for writers if they're keeping track of different revisions of their book. So I'm going to show in the folder. I'm going to copy it. And remember, we downloaded that offline reader. That's going to be really helpful for writers, that they can just download it, the ebook, to their local drive. They don't have to upload it to a server and think, oh God, did I make a spelling mistake? You can test it on your local drive. So I'm going to go into that folder of the offline site. I'm going to paste it, double click on it, and there is our ebook. It's got the title that we added, the author. It's generated a table of contents for us. We've got our chapter headings. It's added a drop cap to the first letter of the first word of the text. And then let's make sure our link works. It sure did. Added in our credits and all the other. We have all of our interactive features here. We've got our dark mode. We could favorite it if we wanted to. We could add notes if we wanted to. So with just those few little bits of markup, we were able to create a whole ebook. Now, there's a couple other things I'll show you as far as how you can customize these. Let me go back first to my notepad. The first thing is that if you're writing a smaller book, like let's say a short story, you may not want a full table of contents within the ebook. That might make it a little bit too cluttered. So if I wanted to remove the table of contents, and because it's a small ebook, I put 2 exclamation points at the top, and I just type small. That's all you have to do. Sometimes people like subheadings for their chapters. If you wanted to put this on a different line, do a subheading, I just do that. And let's see, I'll do it same here. I was just thinking one time I was making a movie where it was partly set at University of Colorado, and I never noticed that I spelled it university, and I discovered it on the premiere screening. So that was a wonderful feeling. But anyway, here we go. Now I'm going to, sorry about that. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back to my browser, go to the main page. I'll click Reset. I'm going to paste it here. And so now I'll generate another ebook. And I will go back into the download section. I'm going to copy this new ebook into the offline folder. Paste it. Let's open this one. And as you can see, it has removed the inline table of contents. And now we have subheadings it's not all on one line. It's broken up a little bit. Now, if you really still want the table of contents, it's still up here. And I'll show you the mobile table of contents. Here we go. And this is another cool feature. So it knew that I had subheadings. So and maybe those subheadings had important information about the chapter. So it didn't forget it. It just adds it. It combines the two, the heading and the subheading. So they're both together. It thinks of all those things for you. And I'll close that. So that is just an incredibly small sample of what this Shanty markup language can do. That's all you need to know to start writing ebooks. But on top of that, you can add cover images. You can start adding illustrations. You can add your audiobook. You can even add footnotes. There are footnotes, and if you click on the footnote, there will be a link that takes you back to where you were, so you don't have to scroll all the way up to the top. So I'm going to be, please check back, and I'm going to have instructional tutorials about how to incorporate all this markup into your ebook, and you can end up with something truly powerful. But for now, this is what it is. It's this is the Nantucket eBooks. Here is our main one, and again, there's a link to this particular ebook in the description. This is sort of an overview of the things I've talked about tonight. And so, yeah. Lastly, I guess I wanted to talk about where we go from here. I've shown you how Nantucket eBooks make it easier for writers to deliver the very best reading experience to their audience. For the last part of this presentation, I'd like to tell writers how they can get involved with this. So as you've seen, there is an official website, nantucketebooks.com, and this is going to be the hub for all information related to this project. People can come to nantucketebooks.com to find new writers who are using this platform. I'm going to be starting nantucketebooks.com in a trial phase. If you're a writer and you're interested in publishing your work using this technology, I would encourage you to email me at njb@nantucketebooks.com. The trial phase is going to be your opportunity to be part of a new adventure and have a say in the ongoing development of the platform. So you have to apply by email, right down there. And during the trial phase, there will be no hosting fees. I do see that after the trial period, we'll charge for hosting on the site. But for the trial phase, there won't be any hosting fees, and all writers who are part of the trial program will have their work promoted through the site and through our Twitter page at Nantucket eBooks. I encourage all kinds of writers to apply. I think this has a lot of particular application for writers who have a very specific audience in mind. For example, I've worked with a lot of historical societies, and there are genealogists who are writing their autobiographies, and they intend for those to be shared with their families. So they have an audience that they know is going to read it. So in that case, I would definitely recommend it. Definitely if you're interested in if you're just starting with writing fiction, I would love to be in touch with you. I've also thought, if you're doing documentation on software, this is a much better step up than the microscopic typefaces that most documentation is written in. So this is your opportunity to help write a new chapter in the story of ebooks. And I want you to be part of that story. So again, please email me at njb@nantucketebooks.com, and I very much look forward to hearing from you. If you're someone who likes to read and you're watching this, I can't wait to share some of my own stories with you that I'm going to be distributing using this technology. So I encourage all of you, writers and readers alike, to set sail with Nantucket eBooks and help create a better way to write and read online. And I'll leave you with a composition that I created specifically for Nantucket eBooks. So this is sort of the theme that I have here for the project. And let's see if I can get this working. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Bye.